For this unit, we're going to be creating a music lyric video. The first part of this exercise is going to show you how to set up your After Effects document and import an MP3 file. Then the first thing we're going to do is to set a typographic design and have each of the words appear on the screen in time with the audio file. So let's get started. To get started on this exercise, the first thing you needed to have done was download the Golden Girls theme song MP3. We're going to jump into After Effects and create a new composition. The size of our composition is going to be 1920 by 1080 with a frame rate of 24 frames per second and a duration of 1 minute. So make sure you've got it set to 1:00:00. We'll keep the background white for now and we'll say OK to this. The first thing we need to do is to go to File and let's import that MP3 file. With it selected, make sure Create Composition is not checked on. We just want to be able to bring in the MP3 by itself, and then you can drag it down to your timeline. Next, we need to be able to see the waveform for our timeline. You can open up your Layers options, Audio, and Waveform, and this will show you what the audio looks like. The other way you can do it is by simply hitting the L button twice. This will automatically open just the waveform itself. Next, we need to be able to trim down our timeline. You'll notice that we created a composition of 1 minute, but our song is only a little over 40 seconds long, and so we don't need the rest of this time out to this side. To quickly and easily trim it, bring your playhead just past the time marker, so around 41, 42 seconds. Then click on the Work Area Time Ruler. This is the one that's just below your time ruler. By clicking on the right edge and bringing it over to your playhead, this will allow you to bring in your work area a little bit smaller. Then you can right-click on this ruler and tell it to trim comp to work area. This will trim your time down so that you don't have any excess left over. Since we're going to be working in this in separate chunks, it's also good to bring your work area to end just past where you need to work from. Now, for our first part of the audio, we only want to animate the first 6 or so words. If I play it, thank you for being a friend. This takes place roughly within the first 5 seconds. So I drug my work area to that 5-second mark, and now I can zoom in to be able to see the individual waveform. The next thing we need to do is to add some markers to our work area so that we know where the words are starting. If I was to scrub back over, I can see some of the peaks and valleys, and in general, wherever you see a peak, that's where they're saying a word. Thank you. So I can see right here at 1 minute, 1 second, and about 12 frames, 12 or 13 frames, that's where the first word of thank is going to start. I'm going to move over to 1 second and 13 frames. To add a marker, you can right-click on your timeline, go up to Marker, and choose Add Marker. You can also use Control-8 to add a marker to your time. To add a label to your marker, once you've created it, you can also right-click or Control-click on it, choose Settings. I'm going to type in the word thank. You can see that adds a little label to that marker, and now I know where that word thank starts. The word you is going to be at the next part. So if I scrub over and listen to it at roughly 1 second and 18 frames, again, we can either right-click or we can do Control-8 and add a marker, and then right-click and add our settings, type the word you. Continue on and add your markers for beginning, being a friend. Once these are set, now we can start building out our composition of words. Up at the very top in your tool panel, you do have a type tool, so we're going to use the horizontal type. And when you select this tool, go to Window and make sure your character and paragraph panels are also open somewhere on your workspace. Now inside my character panel, I'm choosing a very bold sans serif typeface. So for me, that's going to be Arial Black Regular. The size of it is going to change up depending on what we're doing with the word, but in general, I'm going to keep it at 130 pixels. I'm going to make sure my leading and everything is set to 0 or auto for my tracking. And for this one, I'm going to set my paragraph alignment to be centered. Whenever you click once on your composition arrow, this is where you can type out words. Then to move them around, you can use your selection tool and place them wherever they need to go. Do note that when you create new text, it's automatically going to put your anchor point right in the lower center portion. In our case, you may also want to go to Layer, Transform, and center your anchor point inside the center of the content. This way, when you go to scale it, it'll scale a little bit more naturally. So take a moment and type out each word on its own separate layer. Notice when I typed in the word thank, it has its own layer already set. So now, all I've got to do is I can actually select this layer, do Command D to duplicate it, drag it off, and all I have to do is double click and type the word you, and I can go to scale it up from here. Repeat this process for all of the words thank you for being a friend, and in general give yourself the same composition that I'm about to build. Once we've got our entire composition set and nice in the center of our frame, now we can turn our attention to our timeline. And since each word is in its own separate layer, we can start that layer's time right where it corresponds with the marker that we've developed on our MP3 timeline. So I drug thank to start with thank. The you timeline is going to start with you for being a friend. And it'll set right there. Now if we were to scrub back and play it again,
Thank you for being a friend.
Each one starts at exactly where we want it to start. At this time, if you haven't done so already, let's go up to File and save our composition, and then we'll move on to animating the tracking of an individual word. I'm going to call this my Golden Girls theme.